Friends of the journey, tireless seekers of the truth hidden behind the veil of the obvious, let us unite at this threshold of a revelation that, throughout the centuries, has whispered secrets into the ears of the pure and remained an enigma. For the majority, there is a latent force, a dormant power that resides in each of us, not as a mere poetic metaphor, but as a pulsating biological and spiritual reality. It is the primordial current, the unknown essence that ancient sages called Kundalini. Imagine for a moment the deepest root of a 1,000-year-old tree, intertwined in the fertile darkness of the earth, from which all life, every branched and blossoming structure, draws its sap. This image, however vivid, barely scratches the surface of Kundalini. It resides, yes, at the base of our spine, an energetic epicenter, but it is not a common energy. It is not the electricity that illuminates cities or the heat that warms the body. It is something much more fundamental, something that borders on the miraculous and is intertwined with the very essence of creation. From the dawn of human consciousness through the whispers of ancient wisdom, this force has been recognized, not as an abstract concept, but as a fiery serpent coiled 3.5 times upon itself, sleeping in a silent sanctuary in the Muladhara, the root center. This image is not arbitrary. It symbolizes the spiral nature of energy, its stored potency, and its capacity to ascend, winding through our subtle architecture. The hidden mysteries of ancient esoteric schools and the forbidden texts that have survived the passage of time and ignorance allude to this divine entity. They refer to it as the mother of all sounds, the sleeping goddess, the golden thread that unites the microcosm, the macrocosm. Now think of it as encapsulated cosmic energy, vital prana in its most concentrated and pure form, awaiting the opportune moment, the alignment of intention and receptivity to unfold. It is not just a mass of raw energy, lacking discernment. No, here lies one of the deepest and most revolutionary truths. Kundalini is a living intelligence, an intelligence that does not resemble the linear logic of the human mind, but rather an instinctive, cosmic wisdom, a type of primordial consciousness that knows the way back to the source, to wholeness. It is, in its purest essence, the very force of primordial life, the élan vital that animated the first cell and continues to drive the evolution of all that exists. It is integrated into our biology, not as an appendix, but as the very energetic matrix that sustains our form, our perception, and our capacity to experience. This intelligence resides within us as an incalculable potential. It is the master, key to inner alchemy, the transmutation of the dense lead of ignorance and limitation into the gleaming gold of spiritual enlightenment. It is not merely an energy in the physical sense. It is a consciousness in itself, a fraction of the divine residing within every human being, waiting to be awakened. Imagine a seed that contains within its core the complete code of the majestic tree, of the entire forest. Kundalini is this cosmic seed within us, carrying all our potential, our ancestral memories, our latent gifts, and our intrinsic connection to the universe. When this energy, this serpent of light, decides or is invited to awaken from its ancient slumber, the resulting process transcends any common expectation of personal development. It is not limited to empowering one faculty or another. It orchestrates a revolution throughout our subtle architecture. Think of the energy channels, the nadis, that run through the body like invisible rivers, and the rotating force centers, the chakras, that function as transformers and distributors of this cosmic energy. Kundalini, as it ascends, not only unblocks these channels, but recalibrates and purifies them, infusing them with unimaginable power and clarity. This ascension is the ignition of an alchemical fire. It activates intuition in a way the rational mind could never conceive. It ceases to be a mere hunch and becomes a clear, direct perception, an innate knowing that bypasses analysis. Sensory perception intensifies, colors become more vibrant, sounds sharper, the very texture of reality is revealed in previously hidden layers. It is as if the veils obscuring the world are gently but firmly drawn back, allowing us to see, hear, and feel life in its multidimensional fullness. But the effects of Kundalini awakening go beyond intuition and perception. It recalibrates our very biology. Endocrine glands, the nervous system, and even cellular structure can be influenced by this primordial force. Accounts of spontaneous healings, an extraordinary surge in vitality, and an inner harmony that radiates into the physical body testify to the regenerative power of this cosmic energy. It is the body's innate intelligence reactivating to its highest potential, correcting imbalances, readjusting frequencies, and realigning every cell with the original blueprint of health and wholeness. Ancient wisdom, often relegated to myth, resurfaces through this vital experience, demonstrating the indissoluble interconnection between mind, body, and spirit. This force does not operate in the realm of fantasy. Its effects are concrete, though its nature is subtle and unfathomable to the purely materialistic mind. It is the bridge between the finite and the infinite, the corporeal and the divine. The journey of Kundalini is a journey of self-knowledge, carried to its ultimate consequences, a descent into the deepest abysses of being to emerge into the heights of spiritual enlightenment. It is the pure form of primordial life, the divine breath that animates us and contains the genetic map of our transcendence. But why has such a fundamental and transformative truth been relegated to the margins of history? Why have the hidden mysteries surrounding this vital force been so fiercely guarded, and when they could not be protected, deliberately distorted? There is a profound reason, a common thread that extends from ancient forbidden texts to the corridors of contemporary power. The history of Kundalini is not just the history of an energy. It is also the history of suppressed knowledge, distorted symbols, and a humanity that, for too long, has been prevented from accessing its own innate power. The crucial question is not just, what is Kundalini? But why have we not been taught about it? And this is the question that will lead us to delve deeper, beyond the nature of the energy, into the labyrinths of history, suppression, and rediscovery. The truth, my friends, is that the awakening of Kundalini is not just a mystical exercise or an esoteric technique for a few. It is the path to absolute self-mastery, to spiritual autonomy that transcends imposed doctrines and dogmas. Imagine a world where every individual could access their own inexhaustible source of ancient wisdom, connect directly with the cosmic energy that permeates all existence, and manifest their divine potential without intermediaries. Such a world would be unrecognizable to the control structures that thrive on ignorance and dependence. The hidden mysteries of Kundalini were deliberately concealed because their revelation poses a direct threat to those who profit from humanity's mental and spiritual servitude. For this reason, forbidden texts were burned, their truths transfigured into superstitious myths, and the very practice of inner alchemy was demonized or reduced to an empty ritual, devoid of its transformative power. Spiritual enlightenment, once an innate right of every being, became a distant promise, mediated by institutions that proclaimed themselves guardians of truth, when in reality they imprisoned it. Think of great empires, institutionalized religions, and social systems that demand conformity. The individual with awakened Kundalini is not easily manipulated. They see through illusions, perceive the vibration of truth and falsehood, and operate from an inner center of power, invulnerable to external coercion. This is the true fear behind the repression. It is not the fear of the energy itself, but the fear of the freedom it grants. It is the fear of a humanity that refuses to be enslaved, that remembers its true divine nature, History is replete with evidence, for those with eyes to see, of how this knowledge was persecuted. From the inquisitorial purges that labeled esoteric knowledge as heresy, to disinformation campaigns that distorted Eastern practices to make them seem dangerous or fanciful. Even in cultures where Kundalini was openly recognized, as in India, the true practice was often relegated to secret sects or esoteric lineages, not by the adept's choice, but by the need for protection against desecration or destruction. It was the only way to preserve the ancient wisdom for generations, keeping the flame alive, even under the cloak of hidden mysteries. Inner alchemy, this process of transmuting pure energy into refined consciousness, has been described as a dangerous and uncontrolled practice. But dangerous to whom? To the one who practices it and experiences a profound restructuring of their being, or to the structures that depend on their weakness. The truth is that activating Kundalini, when done with proper preparation and reverence, is the safest and most powerful path to spiritual enlightenment, an experience that redefines existence itself. Many seek this connection with cosmic energy through external methods, complex rituals, or artificial substances. But Kundalini reminds us that the source is within us. It is the bridge to all that is divine and limitless. The forbidden texts, those that manage to survive censorship and destruction, frequently allude to this sleeping serpent as the key to unraveling the great enigmas of the universe. They do not speak of a fearsome power, but of a potential to be released. The rediscovery of Kundalini in our era is no coincidence. It is a sign of the times, a cry from planetary consciousness itself for humanity to awaken to its forgotten heritage. But Kundalini awakening is no walk in the park. It is a journey that requires courage, discipline, and an open mind to unravel the hidden mysteries of existence and of oneself. It is a force that, once activated, cannot be ignored. It reorders reality, dispels illusions, and demands a total recalibration of one's being. And it is in this recalibration process that many stumble, not due to the nature of the energy itself, but due to a lack of proper understanding and preparation. The journey is a form of inner alchemy, where the lead of ignorance is transmuted into the gold of wisdom. But what happens when this energy, this primordial force, encounters blockages and resistance within our own systems? What happens when the channels through which it should flow are obstructed by traumas, limiting beliefs, and the conditioning of centuries of denial of our ancestral wisdom? The answer to these questions leads us directly to the next step of us. Our journey to a place where energy and matter meet in an intricate ballet of light and shadow, further unraveling the hidden mysteries of our own bodies. The body, my friends, is not just a vessel. It is a map, a complex system of vortices and currents that interact directly with cosmic energy. And it is on this map that Kundalini traces its path, revealing secrets that will transcend even the forbidden texts, for they are inscribed in its own energetic DNA. This energy, my dears, is not an abstraction. It is the very essence of life, a primordial energy that weaves the universe and resides within each of us. Kundalini, often symbolized as a sleeping serpent coiled at the base of the spine, is the representation of the purest life force, a living and vibrant intelligence inherent in our biology, integrated into every cell, every strand of our DNA. It is not something acquired externally, but an innate heritage, a portion of the cosmic energy that pulses in the sanctuary of our own being. It is there, latent, awaiting the opportune moment, the right resonance to awaken and unveil the hidden mysteries of our existence. Consider it the master key to our evolution, the biological and spiritual engine that propels us to states of consciousness that the rational mind alone can barely conceive. When this force, this fiery serpent, as it is poetically described in some of the oldest forbidden and sacred texts, begins to unfold, it does not do so randomly. There is a subtle architecture within us. The nadis, energy channels invisible to the naked eye, and the chakras, energy centers that function as transformers and distributors of this vital force. Kundalini ascends through these pathways, purifying, activating, and realigning each of these centers. From the densest to the most ethereal dot, it is a process of inner alchemy in its deepest form. Imagine this energy in motion, dissolving the energetic blockages we have accumulated throughout our lives, traumas, fears, social and cultural conditioning that keep us trapped in repetitive patterns. It not only cleanses, but transforms. With each vortex it illuminates, new layers of perception are activated. Intuition ceases to be a mere sensation. It becomes undeniable clarity, a knowing that transcends logic and reason. Sensory perception expands. Colors become more vibrant, sounds clearer. The very texture of reality seems more tangible, more alive. And perhaps most surprising is its impact on our biology. Kundalini has the ability to optimize bodily functions, accelerate healing, and even awaken latent capacities in our nervous and glandular systems that remain dormant in most people. That is why Kundalini awakening is often associated with spiritual enlightenment. It is not just an enhancement, but a complete reconfiguration of what it means to be human. You begin to operate from a new paradigm of consciousness, where the separation between self and universe dissolves, revealing the intrinsic interconnectedness of everything. Ancient wisdom, the wisdom passed down by word of mouth in esoteric traditions and encoded in symbols and parables to protect its power, is no longer something studied in books. It becomes a lived experience, a knowledge that emerges from within. You become your own living library, the guardian of the hidden mysteries that have always been present within you. However, this is not a journey to be taken lightly. The intensity of this energy, once it manifests and begins to move, is profound and transformative on all levels. It not only activates, but purifies. It burns away what is not true, what no longer serves its highest purpose. And this can be uncomfortable, even terrifying, for those unprepared to face the shadows that Kundalini light inevitably reveals. So, if Kundalini is this primordial force, this living intelligence that redefines our biology and consciousness, how do we prepare to receive and integrate this torrent of cosmic energy into our system without being overwhelmed by it? If this energy can activate latent capacities and guide us towards spiritual enlightenment, what is the role of our mind and emotions in this process? And what awaits us when this energy ascends and the veil between the visible and the invisible begins to dissipate, revealing hidden mysteries we never even imagined? The answer to these questions leads us to the next level of our exploration, where discipline and surrender intertwine to pave the way for this inner force. For the path of Kundalini is not simply the awakening of an energy. It is the awakening of a totality, of a being that exists beyond the limits of body and mind, connecting directly with the source of all ancestral wisdom. What happens when this fiery current finds the doors of higher perception? And how do the forbidden texts describe this transition? That is what we will discover in our next meeting. You see, ancient wisdom has always recognized this force. Before the shadows of ignorance and fear covered the earth, primordial civilizations spoke openly of Kundalini. For the Egyptians, it was the uraeus, the sacred serpent on the pharaoh's forehead, a symbol of divine power and spiritual enlightenment. In India, it was Kundalini Shakti, the dormant serpent at the base of the spine, waiting for the moment to awaken and ascend. The Mayans, the Incas, the Australian Aborigines, all of them, in their deepest cosmologies, had narratives about a serpentine cosmic energy, which was the very essence of life, creation, and consciousness. This was not a marginal belief, but the core of their understanding of the universe and humanity's place within it. They integrated it into their rites, their medicines, their architecture, and their arts, understanding that the awakening of this force was the path to union with the divine and the manifestation of unprecedented potential. However, like many profound truths, this ancient wisdom did not escape the fury of ignorance and domination. With the waves of colonial conquests, the expansion of exclusionary religious dogmas, and the rise of institutions greedy for control, the knowledge of this cosmic energy was systematically suppressed. Think of the bonfires of the Inquisition, the sacked temples, the persecuted shamans, the burned writings. Those who held the hidden mysteries, who guarded the secrets of inner alchemy and true spiritual enlightenment, were labeled as heretics, witches, or madmen. Their symbols, once revered as portals to divinity, were perverted and demonized. The serpent, which was the personification of Kundalini, of regeneration, wisdom, and the cycle of life-death rebirth, was transformed into the embodiment of evil, deception, and sin. This distortion was not accidental. It was a deliberate strategy to break the individual's connection with their own source of power and with the vast tapestry of cosmic life. Institutional fear, the fear of a people who could achieve spiritual self-sufficiency, who could access their own divinity without the need for intermediaries or hierarchies, was the driving force behind this suppression. If every individual could access spiritual enlightenment on their own, what good would power structures built on ignorance and dependence be? Thus, the forbidden texts, which contained the maps for this inner journey, were hidden or destroyed. Monks, sages, and initiates had to conceal their knowledge, transmitting it in secret, by word of mouth, through hidden lineages. This suppression not only deprived humanity of a direct path to wholeness, but also created a void filled with superficial interpretations and a materialism that moved us further and further away from our true spiritual nature. But despite centuries of persecution and distortion, the essence of this ancient wisdom has never been completely eradicated. It resides between the lines of ancient myths, in forgotten symbols, in the fragments of forbidden texts that have survived time and censorship. It pulses in our own inner alchemy, waiting for the moment to be rediscovered. Every time someone feels an inexplicable call to self-knowledge, to go beyond the obvious, to unravel the hidden mysteries of existence, this cosmic energy silently moves. The serpent, once crushed and demonized, begins to re-emerge in our collective consciousness, no longer as a symbol of evil, but as a reminder of the latent power that resides within each of us. And what does this rediscovery of such an ancient and brutally suppressed truth mean for us today? How can we navigate the distortions and find the purity of spiritual enlightenment that our ancestors knew? What impact does this awakening have on a world that is still grappling with the repercussions of centuries of fear and control? Reflecting on the history of this suppression is not just looking back. It is understanding the roots of many of the challenges we face today. It prepares the ground for the next phase of our exploration, where we will delve into the practices and states of consciousness that hold the key to unraveling these hidden mysteries and realigning our own inner alchemy with the eternal current of cosmic energy. But before moving on to the techniques, we need to understand the vehicle of this transformation. And this vehicle, dear ones, is the human body itself, in all its energetic and spiritual complexity. How does it become the crucible of this alchemy? And what did the ancient masters teach us about its subtle anatomy? This, in itself, is a vast mystery to be unveiled. Yes, my dears, the body. This complex, often underestimated temple is the stage where the deepest inner alchemy unfolds. We speak of energy, of consciousness, but where does it reside? Where does it pulse most intensely? Within us, awaiting the call, or perhaps waiting to be released. And this release, this process, we call Kundalini awakening, is not the enlightened fairy tale many imagine. Far from it. It is, in fact, a fast track to everything you've been avoiding. An unglamorous and brutally honest journey that forces you to confront every shadow, every fear, every fragment of your false self built during a lifetime of conditioning. An expectations dot, it is as if a gigantic purifying force activates deep within your being, driven by an ancient wisdom that knows the way back to wholeness. This latent cosmic energy, once activated, does not ask if you are ready. It simply is. And as it ascends, it demolishes the fabricated images you have projected of yourself, exposing the essence beneath all layers of defense. It is a dismantling, a controlled demolition, though often those experiencing it do not feel it that way. Pain, trauma, wounded ego, everything that has been carefully swept under the rug of consciousness is exposed to the light. And this exposure is intense, overwhelming. It is not uncommon for those undergoing this process to experience extreme physical sensations, intense heat, uncontrollable tremors, pressure in specific points of the body, especially the spine, and on. Head, the nervous system recalibrates, and the body reacts to this new energetic voltage. Emotions previously contained emerge with a force that can seem unmanageable: anger, sadness, terror, ecstatic joy, all in a whirlwind that destabilizes normal perception of reality. It is a fiery crucible where what no longer serves is burned, away, transformed. It is inner alchemy in its most visceral form. And why is this so intense? Because what is being dismantled are not mere ideas, but deeply ingrained, energetic and emotional structures that define who you believe you are. This reevaluation of priorities is inevitable. Old relationships may crumble, careers may lose their meaning, and values that once seemed solid disintegrate. It is alchemy in action, transmuting the lead of the ego into the pursuit of the gold of authentic spiritual enlightenment. Many of the hidden mysteries of existence that once seemed distant or abstract become incredibly personal and vivid. You begin not just to believe in certain truths, but to be those truths, feeling the cosmic energy pulsing in every cell dot, the forbidden texts. Those that have remained hidden for centuries do not speak of an easy path, but of a path of radical transformation, of fire and rebirth. They describe Kundalini not as a switch that simply turns on the light, but as an impetuous river that purifies everything in its path, leaving only the essential. And for those who experience it, it is a direct confrontation with the truth that life, as we know it, is only the surface. Ancient wisdom has always known that true transformation resides in this stripping away, in this ability to endure dissolution, to re-emerge renewed. It is the death of the false self for the birth of the true. And the beauty, or perhaps the terror, of this process is that it has no clear end in the sense of a finish line. It is an ascending spiral. Once the door opens, it does not easily close. You become a vessel, a conduit for an energy that constantly elevates and challenges you. But how do you know if this elevation is genuine or just a trap of the spiritual ego? How do you differentiate true spiritual enlightenment from the mind's projections? And what happens when this cosmic energy finds no outlet or clear path to flow? There are, my friends, dangers and pitfalls in these hidden mysteries of awakening that ancient wisdom warned us about millennia ago. And it is these challenges and the art of navigating them that we must focus on next. Yes, we spoke of the dangers and pitfalls, the nuances of awakening. But there is a fascinating paradox in our era. While ancient wisdom has always warned us about these hidden mysteries, modern science, with its empirical lens and its eagerness to quantify the intangible, is beginning to focus on the same phenomena. It is as if ancient legends find an echo in laboratories, no longer as myths, but as fertile ground for research into human biology itself. What was described for millennia as the sleeping serpent, Kundalini, is now gradually being understood. In terms of electromagnetic fields resonating throughout the body, intense neuronal activity that reconfigures the brain, and bioelectrical charges flowing through the nervous and endocrine systems. Imagine for a moment the same cosmic energy that pulses in stars, the same force that shapes galaxies, is being detected and studied in its most intimate manifestation within us. Scientists are beginning to link this activation to altered brainwave states, from the intensification of theta and delta waves, associated with deep meditative and introspective states, to the appearance of high-frequency gamma waves, linked to moments of peak performance and brain cohesion, indicating a state of unified and elevated consciousness. The vagus nerve, this complex information highway connecting the brain to almost all internal organs, is considered a central protagonist in this drama. It is the great mediator between body and mind, the channel through which many of Kundalini's sensations and activations can be interpreted and perhaps consciously directed. It is no longer a mere spiritual metaphor. It is a highly sophisticated biological system that, when activated, seems to undergo a kind of biological upgrade. This upgrade is not limited to a simple increase in memory capacity or logical processing, but extends to a visceral perception of reality, a sharpened intuition that manifests as direct knowledge without the mediation of pure reason. It is the biological architecture itself that recalibrates for greater attunement with subtle reality. Think of it, a biological upgrade. This means that perception is not simply sharpened in the sense of seeing more colors or hearing more sounds, but the very capacity to process information, intuit patterns, and perceive the subtle energies of the environment and other beings is amplified. It is the mind and body operating at a level of efficiency and sensitivity that humanity has rarely experienced en masse, a bridge between the tangible and the intangible. The forbidden texts, which detailed sensations of heat, light, and inner sound, and visions of worlds beyond the ordinary, now find correspondence in neuroscience, which observes patterns of neural activation and neurochemical release that could explain these extraordinary experiences, previously considered hallucinations or mystical delusions. This inner alchemy, this transmutation of consciousness and body, which has always been at the center of the quest for spiritual enlightenment, is being analyzed with scientific methods. The convergence between ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science is undeniable and, at the same time, deeply suggestive. However, and herein lies the crux of the matter, scientific understanding, however advanced, provides us with the biological what and perhaps the how, but rarely the existential why, or the practical wisdom of how to integrate this torrent of cosmic energy into daily life in a balanced way. It can map the synapses, but not the path of the soul. Ancient wisdom did not merely describe the phenomenon. It provided a map, a methodology for navigating the turbulent waters of awakening. It taught us to prepare the vessel, to purify the body and mind, to discern between illusions and true enlightenment. Science, with its cold and objective analysis, still does not tell us how to deal with the distress of an overly acute perception, which can lead to sensory and emotional overload, nor how to avoid the quagmires of the spiritual ego that can arise when experiencing what seems like a superpower. The hidden mysteries of Kundalini, no matter how much they are deciphered in terms of hertz and voltage, still contain a component of profound subjective transformation that defies mere quantification. What does it mean for the soul, for the spirit, that the body and mind operate at such a high frequency? How does the individual stabilize at this new level of existence? And most importantly, how can this cosmic energy, once awakened, not only be contained but intelligently directed towards true enlightenment, towards true inner alchemy, without getting lost in the labyrinths of the mind or the illusion of power? What are the practices, rituals, and disciplines that the forbidden texts and ancient wisdom have bequeathed to us, so that this biological upgrade does not become a burden, but a blessing, a path to self-mastery and mastery of the universe? It is precisely this bridge between what science validates and what experience requires, between biology and transcendence, that will call us to the next level of our journey. And so, we realize that the bridge between the biological and the transcendent is cemented by ancestral wisdom, which reveals the hidden mysteries of cosmic energy, transforming it into pure inner alchemy and spiritual enlightenment beyond any forbidden text. What has your own awakening taught you about the limits of science and the immensity of the spirit? Share this reflection in the comments. If this journey has resonated with you, like and subscribe to discover more truths and to discover the next steps in this evolution. Watch our video on the 7 seals of consciousness. Now,